Let's get right into it. Today, in this explainer, we're tracing one of the most profound journeys in human history, the path from Prince Siddhartha Gautama to the awakened one, the Buddha. We're talking about a guy who literally had it all: ultimate luxury, a sheltered royal life, and walked away from the whole shebang to figure out the human condition. And you know what? The blueprint he left behind is just as incredibly relevant to us right now as it was over 2 millennia ago. Okay, let's dive into this, because honestly, this is the core philosophical problem of human existence. It's the engine driving this entire narrative. I mean, think about it. In a world where absolutely everything changes, youth fades, health falters, people we love pass on, can we actually find a true lasting peace? That exact question is what changed the course of history for our young prince. So, let's set the stage. According to Buddhist tradition, we start with some truly miraculous causes and conditions surrounding the origins of the Buddha. The mythology here sets these massive, divine expectations right from the jump. 10 months before his birth, his mother, Queen Maya, has this incredibly vivid, auspicious dream of a majestic, six-tusked white elephant offering her a lotus flower. Just days before giving birth, she starts a traditional journey back to her homeland of Kolia, and then, on the actual day, she stops to rest at Lumbini Garden. Right there, under the beautiful, serene shade of flowering solid trees, Prince Siddhartha is born. Now, there was a prophecy that this boy would grow up to be either a great world ruler or a wandering ascetic. Obviously, his father, King Shuddhodana, had a preference, so he built a golden cage. He basically engineered a life of ultimate earthly luxury for Siddhartha. Perfect family love, immense status, literally everything we usually consider happiness. But outside those palace walls, that's where the real world was hiding: aging, disease, death. The king's whole strategy was to surround his son with such a flawless illusion of perfection that he'd literally never want to leave. But as we all know, you can only hide reality for so long, right? Which brings us to the encounters that altered his destiny, the 4 life-changing sights. Let's move to Valan and see how this builds into a complete, radical worldview shift. During his chariot rides outside the palace, the prince has 4 absolutely shocking encounters. First, he sees a frail old man, and it hits him for the very first time that youth doesn't last. Everyone ages. Second, he sees a sick person, realizing health is super fragile. Third, he actually encounters a corpse, and the reality that death comes for all of us finally sinks in. He's just overwhelmed by this universal problem of suffering. But then comes the 4th sight: a wandering ascetic, a spiritual seeker who dedicated his entire life to finding a cure for all this pain. And seeing that man, that sparks a profound sense of hope. Having finally witnessed the stark, unfiltered reality of human suffering, the prince makes a monumental decision. It's time for the great renunciation. The human cost of this choice was just immense. Historical texts describe a really heartbreaking scene on the night he leaves. Siddhartha is standing right at the threshold of his bedroom. Inside, his beautiful wife Yasodhara is fast asleep, and she's holding their newborn son, Rahula. He desperately wants to go in just to hold his baby one last time. But he knows for sure that if he touches him, Yasodhara will make up and his resolve will completely shatter. So unable to even say a proper goodbye, he forces himself to turn away, choosing compassion for all of humanity over his own personal world. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the exact problem he set out to solve is defined. It's called dukkha. We often translate that as simply suffering, but it's way deeper than that. It's the profound psychological reality that absolutely everything is impermanent, ungraspable, and basically unsatisfactory. Think about your own life for a second. Think about how much we naturally resist change. We honestly believe we can possess our lives, our relationships, our identities. We constantly chase after these fleeting pleasures, but because the next moment is always right there, coming fast on its heels, that gap between our desire to keep things permanent and the reality that everything changes, that gap creates a basic underlying anxiety. And that right there is dukkha. After 6 grueling years of extreme and ultimately futile asceticism, he finally sits under the Bodhi tree, bringing us to the path of awakening and transforming suffering. So the crucial point is how he actually structured this realization for the rest of us. He essentially acted like a master physician diagnosing the illness of life. First, you get the diagnosis, the truth of suffering. You have to acknowledge that dukkha exists. Second, the cause, the arising of suffering. He pinpointed this as our own craving, our constant grasping for things to be permanent. Third is the prognosis, the cessation of suffering. He realized a cure is actually possible. And fourth, the prescription, the path to cessation. This is the practical, step-by-step framework for living, meditating, and cultivating real wisdom. So, you might be wondering, does this ancient philosophical framework actually hold up today? Let's look at the journey of awakening, applying this ancient wisdom to modern reality. It turns out modern science has been rigorously testing the practical applications of his teachings. There's this fascinating study published in the Journal of Positive Psychology. Researchers took video clips of people before and after an intensive mindfulness meditation retreat, which is a core practice straight from the Buddha. Outside observers who literally had no clue who was meditating and who wasn't, consistently rated the mindfulness meditators as appearing visibly happier. The internal transformation of recognizing and just letting go of suffering, it literally radiates outward. You can actually see it. And this brilliantly illustrates how incredibly adaptable this path is. But, what if you can't just pack up and go on a rigorous month-long meditation retreat? Well, the Buddhist tradition recognized that very early on. For folks who lack the time or the ability for deep meditation, there are super accessible paths to peace, like devotion to Amitabha Buddha. The idea is, by simply calling upon his name with sincere faith, devotees are promised rebirth in the Pure Land, a place completely free from suffering. It's just a beautiful reminder that peace really is available to everyone, no matter what your circumstances are. Whenever we look back at the story of Prince Siddhartha, we're reminded of a few undeniable truths. Life is absolutely impermanent, and yeah, suffering is a real thing. But true lasting peace can actually be found when we take the time to look inward and cultivate our own minds. As author An Yuan beautifully put it, may each of us learn to live a little slower, speak a little kinder, think a little more positively, and sow an extra seed of peace in our daily lives. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Knowing that absolutely everything changes, what is one seed of peace you can plant in your own life today?